Orale, mi gente. Welcome back. We touched a little bit about the basic of what a Chicano was, but in no way do I personally feel that you could explain it in 15 minutes. It's just too intricate. It's a multifaceted word, and it's definitely a multifaceted situation that created it. So we want to talk now, like Denver's leading role in the Chicano movement and what factors that made that a reality.
I agree. So let's just go back in time to when the movement was strong, and I'll call them activities that were demanding activities were very frequent, and we'll touch on how September 16th became so popular. Yeah. We'll touch on all that good stuff. So Marco, why don't you lead us into that time of Denver?
Were definitely times to be alive, right?
That's right. That's right.
You know, for me, there's a book written out about the Bolshevik Revolution called 10 Days That Shook the World. For me, that was my 10 days during being part of the Chicano movement. We did not have that typical teenage growing up where we're just partying on the streets and fucking up and doing stuff. And we went from meeting to meeting.
Yes.
We went from demonstration, organizing another demonstration. You know, everything, every issue that Chicanos had to deal with at that time, most of them were oppressive conditions, so we had to come up with solutions to fight them. And the Chicano movement, and we have to give credit where credit's due, we had some of the best leadership in Denver.
We did.
And you know, even if you went through status quo, typical politics, Democrats, Republicans, weren't many Republicans, Chicanos, but the Democrats, we had leadership that joined into the Democratic Party. You had Rich Castro, you had Don Sandoval.
You sure did.
You had the Benavideses from the West Side, and I could go on, and it continues. And then you had the ones that started out in the Democratic Party that realized that, hey, we're banging our heads, we're kissing too much ass, we are proud people, and we need to fight a different way. So it creates people like Los Voluntarios, which was the original Crusade for Justice members. Yeah, and Corky Gonzalez, whether you love him or hate him, you have to admit that he was the spark that lit the fire. And that fire was revolution.
And it was successful.
Yeah, and it was successful.
Regardless of what you think about him, it was successful. Yes. And I'm telling you what, you just don't understand that. I still remember back in them days, you started a lot younger than I did. You know, I started after high.
And incidentally, Lelo and I went to junior high school together. They just called junior high, remember?
yeah. Nowadays, they're all different.
Middle school now.
They're all charter schools. And we got a political show that'd get into that stuff. But anyway, I still remember going to the Crusade, and of course, Corky says, "No, Lelo, here's what you need to do. Come on down," because they had the boxing gym downstairs.
They had the boxing gym, yeah.
That's when I started to learn how to box. He took me down there, and we started to train boxing. You know, because you got to remember, I was a little guy into school. You know, fighting for my lunch money all the time. You know, so it was that time. And that's what got my boxing career. And anyone out there that knows me knows I'm still involved with boxing. It was a big part of my life. As a matter of fact,
so he also was igniter for that fire under you. You know.
Oh, you bet.
That, you know?
Well, he was a boxing icon.
Yeah.
I mean, he is. Him and Red Lopez.
Red. Yeah.
They were icons in the boxing, and you know, the Chicanos, man, we love our boxing. Mexicanos, we love our boxing. I mean, that's part of it.
That was something that we've always excelled in. So it's always been an attraction for us.
Yeah.
It was, you know, like some people consider basketball or football, you know, for minorities to get out in. Yeah. Well, we were big enough to box, and we would definitely had the ability to excel in it.
That's right.
And Corky led the way for that.
He sure did.
Yeah.
He sure did. But anyhow, let's talk about some of the things that happened back that were big days. I mean, we had various things. We had the West High School riots. We had the fights with the police constantly. And we're not just talking about protests like you see today. These were actually engagements of physical violence against each other. I mean, it was, you remember, Mark, we couldn't go outside without being stopped by a cop. And if we were stopped by a cop, we knew we were going to get our butt kicked.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a given.
I mean, it was bow down time, or you know, and even when you did bow down, sometimes you just had some assholes that wanted to come over there and flex their muscle, and hey, this is my neighborhood. You're gonna do what I tell you to do, And they didn't live in our fucking neighborhood.
Let's touch up on September 16th and the Cinco de Mayo celebrations.
And as everybody knows, September the 16th is Mexican Independence Day. That's their 4th of July. Or our 4th of July, basically. But it was a day of resistance, not just celebration. Now they've all turned into fiestas.
Exactly.
It's been incorporated into society. Cinco de Mayo in Denver now is one of the third all-time grossing events that they have at the downtown Civic Center.
It is, and many parts of the country.
Oh yeah, it's all turned into a celebration. But back in them days, during the heyday of the Chicano movement, and I like to refer to them as like from '69 to '76, although it continued many years after.
It did.
The Crusade at that time had just changed over. I believe they changed their name in '68. Originally, Corky Gonzalez was Democratic captain, one of the first ever. And if you look back at his early speeches, he refers to us as Mexican Americans. Chicano wasn't an adopted or popular term during that time. But I think once the resistance started and people started to identify with the need for change, then him and the leadership, which would have been Ricardo Romero, Juan Jaro, Ernesto Vigil, who was a very young man at that time.
He sure was.
Emilio and his wife, Dominguez. The Montoyas. I'm talking about some of the original membership from Los Voluntarios. Louis. Yeah, So the list goes on and on. It was an organization that was due. It was time for change. And they went from Los Voluntarios, bought an old Baptist church, and named it the Crusade for Justice.
I remember that. I remember the building well.
Yeah, a 1567 Downing. It's still in my head.
So who actually started the September 16th things? I'm losing his name.
Rocky Hernandez was the leader of the Black Berets. He participated in '68 in the Poor People's Campaign. He went with the Crusade for Justice, and he met Sal Candelaria, who was out of San Jose, California, who's the founder of the Gorras Negras por la Justicia, the Black Berets. He influenced Rocky, and Corky gave the green light and said, yeah, we need a youth group like that, And they used to call Sal Chemo.
Chemo, yeah.
Big Chicano dude out of California. They grow bigger in California, But anyway, Rocky came back with another guy named Luis Andres Valdez. And nobody ever hears about Andres, but his whole family was involved with the Crusade. But he was also one of the founders of the Black Berets. And what it became is the youth arm of the Crusade for Justice. Because they were young and they were students at East High School. They had Sal's. Their makeup was a little different than the Brown Berets. They had Sal's that they had in different parts. They had it in the West Side. They had it in the North Side. They had it in the East Side. And their goal was to create unity in our community. So they also had to deal with issues like discrimination in the schools. So the biggest group of the Black Berets was at North High School. That's the one Junior was part of. Danny Martinez was part of. Rocky was the spokesperson for the Berets and recognized as the leader of that. And there was a whole bunch of guys that were participating in the beret organization as teens, and they would wear their berets to school. Well, there was a dress code, if you recall.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, the principal brought it to their attention that they couldn't wear they couldn't wear berets. That was a violation of the dress code. But women, well, I'm gonna say girls because they were high school at that time. They did not like the fact that they had to wear skirts. And if you remember, brother, we grew up in the East Side. Them brothers used to, and our poor sisters, you know, they had to be humiliated. Yeah. So they did not like wearing skirts, and they wanted to change the dress code. Yep. So it was logical to combine them efforts. Yes. So Rocky and them protested. All the berets in all the schools were protested. I protested by wearing a skirt to school.
Oh, yeah.
At Horace Mann Junior High School.
Pictures.
Yeah, man. I mean, Loretta Coronado lent me her skirt so I could. And she was a black beret. Val, her sister, was a black beret.
Loretta and Val.
Tim Vallejo was a brown beret from East Side with the same group you guys were at.
Yeah.
But we were all aware of the need for change. So Rocky and the Black Berets ended up getting thrown out of North High School. Yeah. And this is on record. My mom and Junior, the Crusade, supported the Berets for taking that stand and sued the school board. And there's on record, they're listed who the members are. Yep. But they had the idea of creating a demonstration to bring all the schools together. And through that leadership at that time, North High School, Manual High School, West High School, these were all high schools that had large Chicano populations. So instead of just laying back and doing nothing, the idea was, well, let's get all the schools together. Let's show them we're a force, you know. So North High School marched over the bridge to downtown. Manual High School marched to downtown.
Yes, I remember that.
West High School marched to downtown. Now, these were after the West High blowouts. So, you know, there was already some understanding of the need for change in the DPS. And this was a continuation of that. And they were all close in time that these things were happening.
Sure.
You know, so for the first, and I'm giving credit to the high schools, but all of the Baker supported West, you know, Cole supported Manual, Horace Mann supported North, Skinner. I mean, we could Kepner in the West Side from Westwood, you know. So it was the first time that the youth had taken the leadership role.
And I'm telling you, it's so important that the youth understand how much power that they really have, and that's one reason why we have to get the youth involved back with the Chicano or the Mexicano or whatever you want to call yourself, because like I said, we all are one, and get out there and make the change that we can do. And unfortunately, a lot of folks don't want to vote. They don't want to participate in that. But that's a start. That's a start where you get out there and you make a difference, and you go out there and you vote for candidates that think the same way that everyone thinks, for equality for everyone. And I'm telling you, you can make a difference, because it's history repeating itself. So we looked at it and we said, you know, we really lost a lot of the attention of our youth, and we need to bring that awareness back. We need to bring them to understand that they have to get involved. They have to know who they are. They have to understand the future of the Mexicanos, the Mexican American, the Mexicanos, all in general, relies on the youth becoming part of it.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, youth is the future.
Absolutely.
And, you know, there's nobody, no age that's older that will say, oh no, the youth are not the future.
Right.
Well, if they're not our future, we have no future.
Right.
You know, and the youth proved during those times of the heyday of the Chicano movement that they were the ones that were going to make the change. They were tired, and they weren't scared like our parents were, you know.
Right.
They weren't going to get deported. We're fucking Americans. We deserve every right that the white man has, you know, and that was the mentality of the youth at that time. Hell no, we won't go, and we're
That's
not going
right.
to back down. We're going
That's
to
right.
fight, you know. And we're talking about September the 16th. That's what created September the 16th. Them demonstrations.
It was born.
Yeah.
September 16th was born.
And the first September the 16th, if you recall, it was a replay of the walkouts that
you're right.
that the high school department.
You're right.
It was close to September 16th. So when they decided to have a day of demonstration and resistance, September the 16th was the day we picked because it had the history of resistance as far as being the national holiday, you know, for the Revolution of Mexico. So once again, we're connecting our peoples.
Exactly.
And, you know, I wanted to say something about what you were saying. I remember during that time, and the Crusade and the older members supported all these actions. They were out there marching with us. That's what made them unique, you know, and it got a lot of families that supported that. So you didn't just have kids out there running around like crazy.
Yeah, the whole family, the tribe, the whole tribe.
You had the whole tribe out there, man. I remember at Horseman, Mr. Blair used to run the Northside Action Center. He didn't want us getting in trouble with the police, so he got a school bus and took it down to a Horseman, and we loaded it up. So we didn't even march to North High School. We got a ride.
There you go.
But here's something I wanted to say, and this was about youth. During those days, it may have happened without the adults. It may not have. Thank God we didn't have to find out.
That's right.
One of the leadership of that, who I consider a very great man, is Corky Gonzalez, and all the people that he worked with. He was the spark, but he had a whole team of people. But Corky told me something way back then, because people used to criticize, oh, they're just using gullible children, you know, the kids are young, and every misnomer or every put down they could put because they didn't want to get out and struggle. And the young people were. Well, Corky told me one time, you know, I hear that all the time. He said, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm older. You're going to get older if you're lucky. He said, and you're going to find out, old people don't fight revolutions. Young people do.
See, and that's the whole key. The divide and conquer did not work with Corky. The organization, the Crusade for Justice, kept that together, and it was successful and it worked. We've kind of that rock has kind of disintegrated. So now you got Hispanic, Chicano, Mexican American, Mexicanos. Shame, according to Channel 9 News, if you can't speak Spanish, shame on you. Okay.
If anybody should be ashamed, it should be the educational system for not allowing us to at least be proud and practice our own culture and language.
But I'm telling you,
and we're going to talk about how that affected us, how that role it played with the English only thing, because that was also part of the movement.
Yeah, you remember that? Yes.
Yeah. And I'm going to do some comparisons. And part of one thing that's very significant that's happened right now that people could look at and compare is what's going on with the Palestinians and the Israelis.
Exactly.
You know, but we're going to talk about like other countries that have adopted dual languages.
Yes.
And where they deny us that. And we're going to touch on why they deny us that.
We need to bring these issues together, and we will. This is the inaugural videocast of Chicano Me, and we just need you to tune in. It's going to be aired every Thursday, and because we've got a lifetime to talk about when you talk about Mexican American, Mexicano, Chicano. And like I said earlier in the earlier segment, we're not guessing. Okay, we lived it. Yeah. So the stories in our heads are amazing, you know. So stay tuned. Like I say, you want us to talk about a particular subject or answer something or clarify something in the Chicanos by the name Chicano, send us that email on the website.
Ask questions, people.
Ask questions. You good? And I want to let you know that, Mark, we want to let them know that we will have guests here on this show from time to time, real guests that can sit there and tell you. I mean, they can raise up their leg or their sleeve and they can show you the wounds, baby. Yeah. I mean, the struggle was real and it still is real, but
it's taking different forms.
It's taking a different form, and we just need to, we can't lose who we are and what we are by division.
Right.
So
Unity in our community.
yeah. So
we do make a difference.
that's right. So let everyone know about this videocast that's going on. Let's get this to grow. Let's start to bring the awareness out, who we are as a people, and let's just keep going. This thing is much needed, and not only educational, it's real history, and it's going to pave the future.
It will. And you know, it's common knowledge. If you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going to go.
You're lost.
Yeah, you don't have that base. You don't have that strength. So stay with us, follow along, and like Lelo said, shoot us some questions. We'll answer them. You may not like the answers, but
it's all right.
That's not what's important. What's important is that we stimulate that thought.
It's right.
And know the Chicano movement's not dead.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Hasta.
How did Arnold Schwarzenegger say? Hasta la vista.
Yeah, he's hasta la vista. Hasta la victoria siempre.
Hey, and remember, man, we're Chicanos.
We're Chicanos.
Mi casa es su casa. All right? See you later. Adios.
And I like where it's going because we're trying to just lay some groundwork.
That's all we're doing, yeah.
And then we can go into more refined and focus on certain issues.
See what this opens up, all the youth is saying, Mom, what about the Chicano? Did you know anything about the Chicano movement? It starts questions.
They start questioning, and that's what we want to happen, because we can't even presume to name our people. It has to be something they accept. I have these discussions with Uncle Rich quite often, you know. Uncle Rich was a proponent of reunification in Mexico. La Patria es una. And is it a viable possibility? Yes.
Yes, it is.
That's why America is so bent. That's why I touched on the whole thing about English only.
That's why they keep us separated.
That's right. Okay. You know, the powers that be recognize more than we recognize the potential threat we are to this country.
You don't think Channel 9, CBS, home broadcasting knew what they were doing when they put that shit out there?
I mean, there's think tanks, brother.
Oh, man.
And we'll bring some of those things up.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll put Denver in the forefront is the violent resistance.
Yeah.
You know, and no, we never purported violence, but we did purport self-defense.
You bet.
You bring it to us, we'll return it. And I want to address that because that's going to bring in the symbols of resistance. It's going to bring in the militant underground groups. Because our people don't realize since the occupation, since 1848, there has been resistance in the Southwest.
Yep.
Up until recently. You know what I mean?
That's what, exactly.